Isn't what I did. I wrote us out of poverty. I was a mom on food stamps, on welfare, at home with two small children. My husband was working, but it was social services, so it paid nothing. We couldn't afford daycare. I had to write us out of poverty, and I did that.
Oh, hello. Nice to have you here, Kate. Welcome.
I am so excited to be here.
I just have a few questions prepared for the listeners. So, we know each other from your bundle. You have a freebie that you will be talking about, and you can share all the good information about that. But before we do that, let's find out what your superpower is. Because when you go to your website, and you'll be sharing your website as well in just a minute, well, few. What is your superpower? Because there's so much goodness there. What would you say is your best, well, that you're proud of, your trait, your strength, your whatever you call it?
We make really intimidating concepts fun and easy, and we take the pressure off of them. That is 100% my superpower. So we can be able to distill things down, not only so they're simple to understand, but so that way you're not just putting so much pressure on yourself to be perfect all the time and to get it right, but to really embrace like getting to have a little bit of fun with it, realizing that it's not so serious. Yes, you can take helping your people seriously, you take your brand seriously, but like you can exhale a little bit. So that 100% is a superpower, is that we make things very approachable.
I like that. And of course, who would this be for? Who's your favorite person that you want to help and serve?
I would say, I think like every entrepreneur, it is definitely like yourself a couple of years ago. So it's definitely a content creator or a coach, definitely someone who's interested in selling digital products or courses, because that's just what I know how to do. I've never done physical products, so I don't feel like I can be like, oh, yeah, my methods work for everyone. I don't know. I've never tested those. So I like to stay in integrity with that. So I really love to help people who have this desire to help and who knows that they want to make money, but they might have a little bit of what I call like a mental trash going around of ultimately feeling like they are a bad person from selling, probably because they have bought something that's been lackluster before. They've either felt pressure in that situation, or, there's this whole, societal beliefs that, money can be bad. You're so awful. How dare you want more? And so I really want to prove to people that there is absolutely nothing wrong with putting a price tag on your knowledge. It is perfectly okay. And it honestly gives your customers a chance to really show up, because when you pay attention. It's not saying that you have to, charge $80 million for a, 4-page ebook. We would never do that. You want to still stay in integrity, but it's getting people okay with that. So it's somebody that really just wants to talk about the thing that they love, but they'd also like to monetize it too.
Well, I'm in the making people feel better business. So this sounds really great because, people need to feel better when they're doing all the work they're doing.
Mhm.
So how would you, I mean, if we're serious for a little moment, how would you help someone that is struggling with this?
I think that it is, like we talked about, it's letting them realize that they can like take a deep breath and it's not so serious. And sometimes you do have to go in and, figure out like what is going on with your own sort of money stories and issues and things around selling. Because what ends up happening, which is really funny, because sales is the thing that we really teach the most, is that even though people hate sales, they always seem to default to like the infomercial, like used car salesman, like, and there's more, right? Like pressure, 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 like, how dare you not buy this type of scenario. So they don't really learn how to communicate the value of something without necessarily being pushy, but being very confident in your offer. So it's getting people okay with taking money. And I would really like to meet people where they're at, because nothing is going to beat anxiety more than action. So like I am never going to like force anyone to be like, charge what you're worth. You're worth like $1 jillion. Like you cannot put a price on a person. Like that is the awful advice, right? But you can grow that muscle of being more accepting of money, right? So I always tell people like, you can start a little bit lower in whatever your sales price is, but always know that you're going to raise it because you want the energetic value to be there. You don't want to resent your customers. So it's like if you need to start with something at, a special launch or early bird rate of like $7 and then get yourself to, $50 or whatever it is, and then go from there, the more you iterate, the more you add, you get better at it, right? I do a lot of powerlifting in my off time because that's what all moms do when they turn 38 is they decide to go weightlifting. And like, you just can't start out lifting the super heavy weights. You have to work yourself up to it. So that's really what we try to get people to be able to do. And we do a lot of reframing. So we help a lot of people with email marketing. And so the first thing that we have everyone say is that, being on my list, it's a privilege being in your energy, getting to hang out with you, getting to hear your thoughts and advice rather than like, oh, I'm annoying people. So that reframe is so, so important. It is thinking when you're emailing people that you are talking to someone who is almost just as excited about your topic as you are, right? Because now you're never going to be annoying, right? We all have that friend, maybe like that you talk like Harry Potter with because you guys are just Harry Potter nerds. Like, I want you to think of your audience to be like just as nerdy as you are, right? And if somebody unsubscribes, it's not because you're awful or you're bad. It could just be that, like, one, humans are goldfishes. So there's only so long you can keep your attention. So chances are they could have moved on to a new hyperfixation. So you're fine. Or two, maybe you just help them fix the problem. So like now they don't necessarily need you anymore, which is awesome. But there's always going to be new people to help. And I guarantee you, even that person that left, sometimes they try to come back and their email service provider doesn't let them. So that's always fun trying to do that back end tech. But I guarantee you, they're still probably talking about you to other people.
Yes, that word of mouth. So
Mhm.
how do you get more people onto your list? Because it's a numbers game. I mean, if you've been in sales the slightest of time, everyone professional, I mean, that has sales as their job, so to speak, they talk about this numbers game. So how do you suggest that people get people into their sphere?
Oh, I love that question so much. So, the most important question, and I'm not going to say that there isn't some validity. Like sometimes math is going to come into play. If you have, a $7 product and you have a goal of making $10,000 a month and you have 100 people on your list, that math is never going to math, right? It just isn't. But if you have a product that is more higher priced and you have a list of 500 people, but they're the right people, the likelihood of you being able to make a great living is huge. That's why a lot of us service providers, we can charge a higher price tag. We're only attracting the people that are most likely to become a client. So our numbers don't necessarily matter as much, right? But to actually get people on your list for pretty much anyone, regardless of where you are at, short of physical goods, I will say physical goods, I feel like you guys get the raw end of things because people just want a discount code or free shipping. And you guys already have such low margins that I feel like it's not fair. But for everyone else in the information business, you want to create what's called a lead magnet, freebie, gross people call it an ethical bribe, whatever you want to call it, some type of free content that people are only going to be able to get in exchange for their email address. And you have to make sure that this freebie gets them to take an action and gets them a quick win. I think where people really fall apart, and this was like a trend in like 2017, is like, oh, just do like, 5 tools that get you somewhere. Like that doesn't do much anymore. Like society has changed. People are more discerning. They know what's happening when you give them their email address. So you need to think of we call it the Sir Mix-a-Lot principle. You need to think of a yeah, but because he liked big butts and he cannot lie. So does your email list and so does your wallet. So you need to think of a yeah, but that your people have around your general topic or things that you want to be known for, some of your topic pillars, right? So it's like, I know I need to grow my email list, but like, what do I say to them? Or how do I get them to join? Or, but I don't want to be salesy, right? You think of all these yeah, buts and you just solve one of them with your freebie. And then it's your job because you're going to be able to solve somebody's problem. You're going to be able to get a quick win. So you need to talk about this freebie all of the time, right? All of the time. So that way you can get people on your email list. When you're in podcast episodes, you're going to go ahead and promote it, right? When you're on social media, your calls to action are always going to be, for your PDF, for your auto webinar, again, whatever modality it is, that doesn't necessarily matter, but you want to make sure your calls to action, unless you're trying to sell a product directly, is always to get on your email list because they're just, again, the math to math, right? They're statistically more proven to buy. Because think about it, like on Instagram, you're probably following at least 500 people. You are not subscribed to 500 people's newsletter list. You just aren't. So that's why it's so important to grow your email list. And, you can rely on things again, like social media, like SEO, doing things like podcasts, but we also encourage our students, especially if they like more of the organic route as opposed to ads. And there's nothing wrong with ads. I don't do them currently right now, but it's not something I'm like, oh, I'll never do ever. Is that I like to have at least one giant, what I call a collaborative event a year. And really your two options, and I hate speaking in absolutes, but really your two options are host a summit or host a bundle. Those are the two biggest organic, if you will, collaboration events that you can have. I personally teach about bundles. I host bundles. I love bundles, but my best friend Krista, like that's online, she talks about summits. I've definitely done a summit or two, and you find which one that you like the best, or maybe you're like, you know what? No, I don't like collaborating at all. This isn't for me. I would much rather do one of these other methods, but you just have to do the other methods consistently. The reason why I always say do something big and collaborative, especially if you're new or especially if you're starting out, yeah, you can post on your website. You have no authority with SEO. So it's going to take months, if ever, for your posts to rank, right? Same thing with social media, right? You have a small following. Maybe you go viral, but why are you going to risk gambling when you can get in front of somebody else's audience, talk about something that you talk about that they don't necessarily help with, and you can have amazing things happen. So, long story short, you need to have a free item that people want. You need to talk about it constantly, all of the time. So that way people know about it because you'd be surprised how many people wouldn't. And then at least once a year, have some type of either big collaborative event. We call it like a Lit's building blitz. So that way you can really get out in front of people. Because with summits and with bundles, they both work because you've got 20, 30, 50, depending, right? Or even 10 people really focusing on promoting you and your audience. Not that same freebie. It's going to be something a little bit different, but everyone's going to be joining your email list. And you just can't get that anywhere else. So that's why I always say, like, add that in there. It's going to give you what I consider one of the biggest business assets, and that's momentum. Because, when you see your email, let's go from a couple hundred to a couple thousand in a matter of a week, you're like, oh man. And then you're just like off to the races and you're so excited.
So this sounds really fabulous. But what if someone is shy? Can you be successful online being shy?
I think that you can, but I think that you have to challenge yourself to be a little bit out there. That's another reason why I do tend to like bundles, because they're a little bit more introvert friendly. Because as long as you can get yourself to send an email, or just so you guys know, with Gmail, which I think most of us end up using Gmail, you can schedule out emails. So like if you have too much nerves to be like to hit send, to be like, oh my goodness, maybe Joanne will like collaborate with me, or maybe she can be in my bundle so I can help her grow her audience for her next launch, right? Have them scheduled to go out when you're not around. Right?
Aha, I
So
like
that way,
that.
maybe you write it on Monday, but you have it scheduled to go out, say like 3 p.m., even though you wrote it at 9. So you're not like constantly sort of freaking out, right? It's in the background. That's why, like with email marketing, having automations in the background is great because you don't constantly always have to think about it. So you can go ahead and do that, but you've got to sort of push yourself. Again, I'm not saying that there's, no spots for something like, staying in your bubble, doing SEO. Maybe an algorithm will like you, but I think that you need to take a bit of ownership and just be like, yes, we're going to do it. And chances are, if you're, in the online business space, whether you help people with business or not, you're probably in some type of community or Facebook group, or you've made some type of friends that you can just be like, hey, will you do this with me? Because, it's a lot less stressful than like pitching somebody completely cold that you never heard of, or someone that you think is like 80 steps ahead of you and they'll never say yes. Like start smaller, right? If in those communities they allow for collaboration posts, obviously always check with the community leader. Be like, hey, can I post like, hey, does anyone want to do like a freebie swap with me? We'll just tell both of each other's about each other's lead magnets and share our landing page. Here's who I help. Here's, my actual lead magnet, so you guys can check it out first. Just
That's a really good
little things to get a
idea.
little bit braver.
Mm,
Yeah. Little things
nice.
to just a little bit more, a little bit more.
Hi. Before we continue, let me just share how easy and simply you can remove and improve your feelings in just seconds. Let me show you the 5 simplest steps, the nicest steps to feeling really good really soon. Just hop on over to blissyjoy.com. Now let's get back to the podcast. What is the one biggest secret to make it online? What would you say is the thing that you need to focus on the most?
Oh, there's so many things.
Uh,
They're so right. And I think that that can sometimes be a problem. And I think that you're gonna love this. This is how you know somebody is not just saying it to you. It depends. It honestly depends on your personality type. There are some students that I've dealt with that they just take action. They are just action takers. This is what they do. So for them, really the thing that they just need to focus on constantly is growing their audience and make sure that they have something to sell to people, right? Like know who you want in your audience, know how you help them, and have some way that they can pay you. And they're off to the races and they're just good. Right. There are other people that are a little bit more in their feelings. They've got a little bit of mindset. They've got a little bit of insecurity about them. And so for them, it's about wrangling their brain so they'll take the action. If anyone has ever said to themselves, I know what I should be doing, but I just can't get myself to do it. Well, in that case, that person needs to work on getting themselves to do it, right? And usually, what is that? Growing your audience, making an offer, growing your audience, making an offer. But that's truly how it's going to work. I think the biggest mistake, to flip that question, is to, especially if you're brand new, or even if you don't have a lot of notoriety, is to, I hate to say this, but is to waste like 3 months creating this big, huge, comprehensive course and you have no audience to buy it from. Like that is completely backwards,
Mm.
completely backwards. You have to have some people to talk about. You cannot build things in a vacuum. Now, if you have an audience already, right, you can be talking to them about like, oh yeah, like now we're going to have this course on challenges and here's how it's going to go. And this is all that stuff, right? That's fine because you've already built a big enough audience to support your business. But if you only have 100 people, you are wasting 6 months creating something that no one necessarily is going to buy. You're better off, yeah, you can do it a little bit on certain days of the week just to like get that creative itch, but you're much better off focusing on getting in front of other people's audiences the most.
So when are you ready? When should you start building that course or program or?
I think that you can build something tiny. Because again, this comes back to like knowing you. So like something that you could easily sell, again, depending on how you are with sales, right? Something that you could easily sell for say like under $50. Obviously, you're not going to make a gajillion dollars, right? And if you're a coach, you need to charge way higher than that because it's a one-on-one service. So you can make something that is like tiny, that's not going to take your time. Think like 2 days max. You have to be able to map this thing out, make it, and get a sales page done. Like that's all you get is 48 hours. You cannot do a signature course in 48 hours, right? But you could, if you're a coach, you could map out the steps that you would have people take. So like you can definitely do that with coaching, right? So you'll be fine. Don't think like, oh, but I need all these assets for people. You can create the assets as you get the clients. It is okay. It is fine. So that's what I would say is, you can have something sort of little in your back pocket that you can always have. So you're like, you know what? My freebie is always leading into a paid offer. So it does make sense to get out there. So I would say you could do that as long as you know what you really want to talk about. I would definitely spend a couple of months just really trying to grow your audience, trying to get yourself known for it. And then like say around, the 3 month mark, if you want to go ahead and have your product, you can. But there are some people that just like to start off with both a freebie and a paid product. Just not a big one ever. Do your big one after. Do your big one after.
Maybe you can have several smaller ones for
Yeah, because it
somewhat
depends on
different.
yeah.
Mm.
It depends on how you want to make money. Like
Mm.
that's like the biggest thing. Are you in a traffic game? Like one of the worst things if you're small and just starting out is to do like, oh, I want to do like a low cost membership because like they're all the rage, right? You don't have the volume of people to make a living with a $9 membership that you are constantly creating content for, and you have to market for over and over and over and over and over again. That is a volume game. You need to have a volume plan. How are you going to get all that traffic? Like you need to know about it. You need to know how long am I willing to wait for this thing to work? How long am I willing to go in the negative? When you are a service provider, when you charge higher prices, like I was a copywriter, I didn't need a giant audience, right? I needed some people. And then I did a great job for my customers. And then I got a lot of referrals, right? And I made a living and it was fine. So you need to know the type of game that you're playing, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah, very true. So let's talk about Kate. What is your biggest dream and your loftiest mission? Where are you heading?
So we do this with like everything. And so it comes back to your own story as it always does. And being able to make a living online, I always say, if you guys have ever seen the musical Hamilton, there's a song where he talks about how he wrote himself out. Like he wrote himself out of poverty. And that is 1000% what I did. I wrote us out of poverty. I was a mom on food stamps, on welfare, at home with two small children. My husband was working, but it was social services, so it paid nothing. We couldn't afford daycare. I had to write us out of poverty. And I did that being a copywriter. And so being able to change people's stars, that's like, I know it's so big and lofty, right? I got that from A Knight's Tale, if you guys remember that movie from way
Beautiful,
back in the day with Heath
beautiful.
Ledger. I want to change people's stars. And I think that's why
Mm.
I'm so passionate about helping people with bundles. I don't think everyone needs to run bundles. Like, don't get me wrong. Yes, I have a program on it. We help people out. Our students love it. They get great results. But like for somebody on the receiving end, whether it is a free bundle, and so they got access to amazing things for $0, or it's a paid bundle and they managed to scrape together like $100 and they get access to, like in our case, we got 80 paid resources that are over $50 a piece. Most of them are over not like $100. And you get it for $100. You get all this stuff that can change your stars because now you're getting access to things that you would have never gotten. And now you're going to implement it. And now you're going to see results faster. And now you're not going to give up. So like my mission is to make sure that people don't give up. It is to put money in the hands of good people because there are a lot of bad people that make a lot of money, but there can be a lot of good people that make a lot of
Mm.
money. And say what you want about it, but like money talks. Money makes the world go round. And I think that a lot of people need to see more examples of honestly people that look and act like them succeeding. Now, I can say this as someone who is a cis white presenting female, like, okay, there's a million of you, right? But like, this is for everyone, right?
Mm.
Like, they need it. They need to know what's possible. And one of my favorite stories, and has nothing to do with business, is about the first 4 minute mile. People thought that you'd
Mm.
explode. But then mysteriously, that one guy ran the 4 minute mile. And then less than 2 weeks later, so did the second one. So did the third
Right.
one. Right.
Yeah.
That literally, and I'm not much into particular sports, but like there's a lady who just qualified over here in America. She ran a marathon at a 5 point, I think it was 5.5 minutes or like 5:33. Utterly ridiculous. They've never seen a female run a mile that far. And I guarantee you now, after someone saw her did it, they
Mm.
know that it is possible. So it's not just about changing one person's stars, it's about helping everyone else change everyone else's too. It is that
Mm.
ripple effect. And I think that people are like, oh, but like, I just teach about plants. Like, do you know how much better your clients' moods are going to be when
Mhm.
they walk in to their bedroom
Yeah.
and they see this thriving plant?
And the
Or in the
oxygen
bedroom,
and the
like,
health
yeah,
and yes,
and you've got your
absolutely.
plants behind you. So like, yeah, you
Yeah.
don't need to teach people how to make $1 million, or I know that people are really into like, losing a lot of weight and stuff like that. Like you don't need these big grandiose things.
Mm.
Just making it so they don't have to start World War III with their kids to get them
Mm.
pick up their socks. That is a huge win. You have
Mm.
made somebody's day so much better. And now that's going to trickle down. Now the kid's not set off. So now maybe he's going to act better in school. And now the teacher's not going to have worse day. Like I think that we forget how far down stuff can go.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or sometimes people are the opposite and they think too far about that. And then they get too like in their heads and they're like, oh, but I don't have to be perfect. No, no, no. Just like get it out there. The only
Mm.
way you can get better is by doing. You cannot learn how to swim by reading a book. You got to get in the water.
Right. Yeah, this is my mission as well. This podcast is called the Science and Magic of Love Power, and of course, when you do have the money and you use it out of a loving, generous attitude, then you do need it to help as many possible people as possible. Because if you don't have the money, then you can't give. So absolutely, absolutely, you do need to pay attention to money as well, of course. But
Mhm.
again, as heart-centered entrepreneurs, some people aren't really okay with it. Yeah, but so there's
Exactly. And I think that we all sort of hit our levels. I think that
mm,
sometimes people forget, especially because I know like you talk about love and like mindset and like all that sort of stuff. I think that people forget like you can't do a sit up once in the 8th grade and have a six pack forever. One, it's not how you even get abs in the first place. But two, it's something that you always have to work on. And there's always
mm,
going to be like, I thought I fixed that.
mm,
It's never something to fix, right?
yeah,
Like you thought you finished the laundry, but there's always more laundry to do.
yeah,
Speaking as a
next
mom,
step,
like
yeah,
there's always right.
yeah,
Same thing with the mindset. Same thing like, oh,
yeah,
maybe it is something that you sort of tackled. And so it used to be a mountain. And now it's a little bit more of a molehill. But like it's still
mm.
gonna be there. It's still gonna need some inspecting every once in a while. Well, you'll be okay.
Yeah, and you can clear out more and more and just keep on
Mhm.
growing. I mean, life is a journey. It isn't just a saying. Life is a journey. It's not about the destiny. Because I keep
Mhm.
telling my client, if what if you get to your destiny? Then what? So
Yeah,
the
right.
destiny isn't really the point, is it?
Then you're gonna
So
want something new.
yes, exactly. And then
Right? Like
there's the
there's
journey.
always gonna be.
Yeah,
And it's not that
always the
you're not
journey.
happy with what you've got. It's just you're
Right.
like, oh, but if I could do that, then
Mm,
what else can I do?
exactly. Exactly. Well, it's been lovely talking to you, and it's been lovely getting all this wonderful advice and your ideas. And before we end, how do people get in touch with you? What's the best place to reach you and get all the goodies that you have to offer?
Oh, sure. So, after you're done leaving a review for this podcast, before you go and hit over on the search button, so go ahead, leave your review. We can wait. All the 5 stars, we need those. Then you can search for Do the Brave Thing Online Business Podcast. That is I call it semi-weekly. It's weekly, but we do take seasonal breaks just so everyone is aware. Usually about once a quarter, I take a couple weeks off just so we can get ahead on episodes. So we have the Do the Brave Thing Online Business Podcast. If you are looking for help actually growing your email list, as we had talked about, so that way you have more people's stars to change. Like I said, my favorite way to do this, because it doesn't rely on an algorithm and it doesn't rely on the current size of your audience. I 1000% think it is hosting bundles. And you never have to talk to anyone face to face. You never have to get on camera if you don't want to, like a summit. So I have a free class that you can go to for that. It's over at katedosser.com/list. If you happen to be listening to this and it is the week of the 12th through the 16th of February, we have the Back to Business bundle going on, which Joanna has some awesome stuff in there for you guys. So I'm sure that she'll put her links to that into the show notes as well. If not, we'll have like some runner-up prizes. If it's over, there'll be something there cool for you. But definitely the podcast. And like I said, if you're like, yeah, I kind of want to see what this whole bundle thing is about, you can go to the bundle if it's open, or you can definitely take that masterclass to just see how the whole system works and if it's a growth method that you want to implement in your business.
Wonderful. Yes, Kate has a ton of wonderful things for you to grow. So definitely take a look at that. Now, before we really end, what's the one last thing that you want to leave our listeners with? What is your poster message, so to speak?
I know it sounds very much like a Nike thing, but like, I just need you to do it.
Mm.
Like, especially like I said, since I specialize in sales and helping people with their money, like your audience needs help. So would you rather them spend the money on something that is horrible from someone that just treats them like a number? Or would you rather them be taken care of by somebody who cares about them like you do? Right? Again, we have all listened to free things. Maybe we've implemented here and there, but like, just like, you treat your purse that you got from Target not as well as you would your designer bag because you spent more on it. That's the same way that people are with money. I mean, and
Mhm.
with information. So do not feel bad about charging people for things. You are honestly just stacking the chips in their favor so they actually implement it. Because when people pay, they pay attention. They want to get their money's worth. So
Mhm.
let them get their money's worth so that way you can
Mhm.
give them an edge at actually getting what they want.
Thank you so much for today, Kate. I wish you all the best, and yes, let's get people invited to all these goodies, and let's see what else we can think of in the future. So, all the best to you, and all the
Mhm.
best to the listeners. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.